In Genesis 14:18, it says, Abraham had fellowship with Melchizedek. Melchizedek. That word, his name, Melchizedek, means king of righteousness. And it says that the king of righteousness was the king of Shalom, the king of peace. And it says that he was a priest of the Most High. And that word there, Most High, is El Elyon. It means Almighty, Almighty Supreme. It is the same thing that God, when he spoke to Moses and said, who do I tell him is sending me? He said, I am. I am El Elyon. I am the Almighty God, supreme ruler of everything. And it says that Melchizedek, the king of righteousness, who was the king of Shalom, peace, brought out bread and wine, for he was El Elyon. He was the God. He was the servant or the priest of God Most High. Now, it's very interesting. As believers, we read this, right? And we read it from our perspective, our knowledge as believers. What do we have that wasn't available during this writing and this account of Abraham? The Torah wasn't available. The first 5 books that we know of the Bible was not available. What else wasn't available? The New Testament wasn't available. So when we read this from a perspective of already having the knowledge of the law and the prophets and the New Testament. Melchizedek was a priest. From what order? From what priesthood? He was a priest of the Most High, but from what place? There were no priests. God had not ordained the Levitical priesthood yet. And yet it says he was the priest of El Elyon before the priesthood. It's very interesting because after this encounter that Abram had with the king of righteousness, God came to Abram again and said, I'm going to make a covenant. Take a heifer, take a goat, and take a sheep, all 3 years old, and then take some birds, some pigeons and some turtle doves. And he says, of the heifer and of the goat and of the sheep, cut them in half and face their sides opposite of each other. What was he doing? He was making a blood sacrifice. He was providing atonement in this covenant. God makes covenants in blood. It's the way we are designed as people, because life is in the blood. And so in Genesis 15, Abraham has another encounter with God. And he prepares this, and he cuts the animals, he lays them out, and then he has to fend off the vultures. Blood sacrifice. And then in Genesis 17:10, what happens? God comes to Abram again and says, I'm going to make a covenant with your son Isaac, whom you know is the promise that I've given you, and you are going to circumcise him. You are now going to make a blood covenant with me. Mankind is going to make a blood covenant with me. I made a covenant between me and you when you prepared the sacrifice, and I walked between it with fire. I consumed the sacrifice, and the blood made atonement so that we can have a relationship, a communication. And then he says to Abram, I'm going to reestablish my covenant with your son Isaac, and you're going to make a blood covenant with me. You're going to circumcise your son on the 8th day.